Imagine this. You're heading to work, already running a little late, when your check engine light suddenly turns on. Your stomach drops. You know, logically, that fixing this now might cost around $300. Annoying, but manageable. Then you check your bank account. $42 until Friday. So you do what almost everyone does in that situation. You ignore it. You turn the music up to drown out the strange noise. You tell yourself you'll deal with it later. 2 months pass. The car breaks down completely on the interstate. Now you need emergency roadside assistance. $200. The original issue has destroyed the transmission. Repair bill. $2,000. You miss multiple work shifts. That's another $300 gone. That original $300 problem has quietly turned into a $2,500 disaster. This isn't bad luck. This is a mathematical trap. The hidden cost of not having money when you need it. And today, that's what we're talking about. Not investing, not crypto, not get-rich-quick nonsense. We're talking about why being broke is one of the most expensive lifestyles you can live, and why this has very little to do with discipline or intelligence. The lie most financial advice is built on. Most financial advice starts with the same assumption, that wealthy people are wealthy because they're disciplined, and poor people are poor because they make bad choices. So the advice sounds like this: cut the coffee, cancel the subscriptions, just budget better. But that advice completely ignores a core economic reality. When you don't have money, everything costs more. Not metaphorically, literally, mathematically. There's a concept sometimes called the poverty premium. It's best illustrated by a simple example. The boots problem, and why it matters. Imagine two people, one has money, one doesn't. The wealthy person buys a $50 pair of well-made boots. They last 10 years. The poor person can't afford $50. They buy $10 boots that fall apart after one season. They buy another pair, and another, and another. After 10 years, the wealthy person spent $50. The poor person spent $100. The poor person paid double for worse results. That's not a discipline problem. That's what happens when you're forced to make decisions without upfront capital. And this logic applies to almost everything. The poverty premium is everywhere. Let's make it painfully modern. If you have $50, you go to a warehouse store. You buy bulk paper products. Each roll costs maybe 50 cents. If you're broke, you don't have $50, you have 4. So you go to the corner store and buy a tiny pack where each roll costs $1.50. Same product, triple the price. This applies to food, cleaning supplies, diapers, medicine, anything non-perishable. Poor people don't experience the same inflation rate as wealthy people. They experience higher inflation because they're locked out of economies of scale. And it gets worse when we talk about banking. How banks punish being broke. If you have $10,000 in your account, banks love you. No fees. Free checks. Maybe even interest. If you have $20 and a forgotten subscription hits for $25, now you're negative $5. The bank doesn't help you. They charge you a $35 overdraft fee. You effectively borrowed $5 for one day at an interest rate north of 700%. Banks make billions every year from overdraft fees, mostly from people with less than $1,000 in their accounts. Wealthy people earn interest. Poor people pay interest. That difference alone explains massive wealth gaps. Scarcity destroys decision-making. This isn't just about math, it's about psychology. When you're financially stressed, your brain changes. Research shows that financial scarcity can reduce cognitive capacity by the equivalent of losing a full night's sleep. Your mind becomes obsessed with short-term survival. Rent, food. Gas, the next emergency. So from the outside, decisions look irrational. Payday loans, late fees, fast food instead of groceries. But it's not stupidity, it's bandwidth. The wealthy don't just have more money, they have more mental space. They're not constantly solving emergencies. Transportation, the trap in high definition. Now, let's scale this up. Transportation. If you have savings and good credit, you buy a reliable used car. Low interest, predictable maintenance, low total cost. If you don't, you go to a buy here, pay here dealership. The car is worth $4,000. You pay $8,000 at 24% interest. By the time it breaks down, and it will, you've paid $15,000 for a car that no longer works. You're still making payments. That's not bad decision making. That's risk pricing. You're paying premiums because the system has labeled you risky. And the only way out of that label requires money you can't save because you're paying premiums. That's the trap. Housing and the time tax. Housing works the same way. Renters pay more monthly than owners, often for worse conditions. Because ownership requires down payments they can't accumulate while paying high rent. You're renting shelter. Renting money through interest. Renting stability. Even time becomes more expensive. Laundromats instead of washers. Buses instead of cars. Food deserts instead of grocery stores. Poverty doesn't just cost money, it steals time, which steals future income. The escape nobody talks about. At this point, this might sound bleak, and yes, it's unfair, but understanding this math is also the only way out. Most people are told to focus on investing for 8% returns. But if you're paying 20% interest on debt or constantly fixing preventable problems late, your best investment isn't the stock market. It's stopping the bleeding. And that starts with one concept. The buffer changes everything. The most powerful financial tool isn't an index fund. It's a buffer. That first $1,000 in savings isn't boring. It's a weapon. It turns flat tires into inconveniences, small repairs into prevention, emergencies into annoyances instead of catastrophes. With a buffer, you can buy quality once instead of cheap. Repeatedly, you can choose higher deductibles and lower premiums. You can say no to payday loans, you can think ahead. Money doesn't just buy things, it buys problem elimination. Quiet rich. Thinking. Here's the mindset shift that matters. Stop asking, can I afford the monthly payment? Start asking, what is the total cost of this problem over time? A $50 fix today can prevent a $2,000 disaster later. That's not indulgence. That's strategy. This is how quietly wealthy people think. They don't flex. They don't rush. They eliminate problems permanently. That's the philosophy behind Quiet Rich Club. No hype, no lottery ticket thinking. Just understanding the math most people never see. What to do next? Here's your action step. Audit your life for poverty premiums. Where are you paying extra simply because you lack cash? High interest debt, late fees, cheap replacements, preventable repairs. Pick one leak. Then ruthlessly redirect everything toward building enough buffer to eliminate it. Selling unused items, temporary extra work, cutting convenience spending, not joy but leakage. You're not being cheap, you're buying freedom.